Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Captain's Table. I am your host, Captain B-Nard, and topic of discussion today is going to be Pokemon Legends ZA. What the hell is going on with this game? So we're going to be talking about everything we know and everything we don't know about what's going on with the uh, quote unquote new Pokemon game on the horizon. And as well, we're just going to be talking about the state of the Pokemon franchise as a whole, since we're kind of a lull period here for the franchise as far as new content goes. And here to discuss all of that with me, of course, is making his debut on the captain's table, although he is no stranger to the channel. We've had quite a few Wi Fi battles with him, and he was actually our first guest here. On the captain's recaps last season in the Battle Hub Draft League, we have, of course, the Hacks Master himself, Emeraldminer. Welcome aboard.
All right, people. Very glad to join B-Nard here at the captain's table and sit down for a talk because I like to talk about things, these types of things as well. And yeah, I'm sure that if you guys check me out in SDA, you'll probably see some more hacks coming up pretty soon.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thanks for being here. I'm glad to have you. I know you are one of the best to talk about when it comes to talking about all things Pokemon, to talk with, I should say. So, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and dive right into it here. So, I want to start by talking about Legends ZA. So, um, we're in a really weird spot with Pokemon right now for a couple of different reasons. And one of the big ones to me, if not the biggest one, is the fact that the new game, or the next game, I should say, on the horizon, as Pokemon has announced, is Pokemon Legends ZA, which is supposed to be another spin off game in the same vein as Legends Arceus. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, Beanard, I don't really know much about Legends ZA. And if you're thinking that, then you would be thinking the same thing as the both of us, as well as every other Pokemon fan, because um, Pokemon Legends ZA was announced at this point over 9 months ago, and we have yet to have any follow up information on this game whatsoever. So that's pretty weird, honestly, when it comes to the world of Pokemon. I think this is kind of unprecedented, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong, Emerald, but I don't think this has actually ever happened before where they've announced a Pokemon game and such a long period of time has passed since the announcement and no additional information. Like, we've not gotten another trailer, we haven't got any, like, announcements, anything. Like, there's been a couple of rumors, a couple of quote unquote supposed leaks, but I don't find really any of that stuff to be credible at all. But what do you think about that? Like, what's the deal with that in your mind? Why is this happening?
Yeah, I'm looking back at like the history of like Pokemon games, and we got like XY 2013, and right the year before that, Black 2, White 2. Then we got ORAS. There was a year gap, the infamous 2015 year gap that I spent breeding a lot of Pokemon because there wasn't much else to do. But then eventually we got Sun and Moon 2016, Usum 2017, Let's Go 2018, Sword and Shield 2019. That's when we started having the eras of the DLCs and everything like that. And then eventually we had BDSP and Arceus right back to back.
Yep.
And that led us all the way up to Scarlet and Violet. So we were very rapid fire for a while there. Only gap really was between Oras. But even then, we had the year of 2016. Like, I don't, do you remember those mythicals we had all throughout 2016, leading up to to Sun and Moon? I mean,
Yeah.
that was pretty much most of what we had. But right now, this is
Yep.
like the driest spell we've had. I think all we've had is Meloetta, and we got a Shiny Rayquaza event. Nothing else about ZA. So you're right. This probably is the driest spell we've had
Yeah, I remember what
in
you're talking
generation.
about with the gap in between Gen 6 and Gen 7 with ORAS, and then Sun and Moon. And yeah, they were doing events for they had all those mythicals like I believe Hoopa and Volcanion
Yeah,
and some other stuff in
because that
there.
was the 20-year anniversary. So
Yes.
yeah.
So they had to do something for that, but
But they still had we still had information. I still remember, like, I think that was my senior year of high school, and I remember
making
like
me
around
feel
the
like an old
first day of
man
school
here.
we had a whole bunch of we had a whole bunch of information about like the tapus and terrains, and we had like you remember Coro back in the day? That's how we got
Yes.
all our information.
Yep.
We've got nothing.
Yeah, that's the thing that really sticks out to me here is because even in that dry spell in between ORAS and Sun and Moon when that came out, we still had information. Like you said, we had trailers, we had gameplay footage, we had that kind of thing. But in this case, we have nothing. We have absolutely nothing since the original ZA announcement, which I went back and watched it actually before I came on to do this video, and I had to remind myself because it's been so long ago. Like I said, it's been about 9 months, and I don't believe that we were getting gameplay footage in that trailer. It looks just more
No, I'm
like
looking at it too here. It says not actual gameplay footage.
yes. So there you go, exactly. So I actually have an image of the tower and whatever I'm gonna butcher the
Yep,
pronunciation.
Lumios. Yep.
Lumios, that's what it is. Yes, Lumios. Yes, but yeah, we didn't actually get gameplay footage. We just had like a I don't know what you even want to call that. It was like a digitally
Yeah,
crafted
CGI.
CGI announcement video. Yeah, and that was pretty much it. So um, but yeah, it's really weird because like we said, this is the driest spell Pokemon has had in I don't even know how long. Like I can't remember another time in the Pokemon franchise that this has happened. The last bit of actual content we had released was the epilogue, aside from the events as you mentioned, but the epilogue which came out what 10 months ago now at this point, over 10 months ago I want to say. So and that was all well and good, but man, it's crazy. So I have a couple of different theories for why this happened. So I would say the most innocent of the two theories, I'll start with that one, is just simply that they wanted to announce something for Pokemon Day. I know we talked about this before, but I tend to agree with you.
Yep.
They wanted to make an announcement for Pokemon Day this year, which was 2/29 Leap Day, the infamous. And they wanted to make an announcement, and so they were just like, "Oh, by the way, we're working on this game," and that's it. So 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 the first idea that I have ties to that is that they probably were not very far at all in the development cycle of the game. Like they may have, for all we know, because we didn't get any actual gameplay footage in the trailer, they may have like just started working on the game at that point, and so they had nothing at that point except for, oh, this is the next game we're going to be working on, which is very uncharacteristic of Pokemon, I think, because typically they don't do it like that. Typically when they announce a game, we're seeing like actual gameplay footage, like the game's probably in post-production at that point, I would say. um, so that's one possibility, I think, is that maybe they just announced this game like super early in the development cycle of the game and it just wasn't there yet. Um, the other idea I have, and this is more of the conspiratorial theory of mine, is that they might be either overhauling or changing or both a massive portion of the game, and that's why they haven't shown us anything about it yet. So
Mm. They're
um,
pulling a Metroid Prime.
yes, that they very well could be the case. They're pulling a Snow White, the new Snow White movie. If you've heard of that, I don't know, but
Yep.
yeah, where they the CGI dwarves.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so they could be doing that. But I really don't know. I think the more I think about it, the more I think it's in my mind. It's probably like you. It could be a 50-50, or it could be a combination of both. Um, but I don't know. What's your take on it? What do you think the holdup
Yeah, I've got a
is?
couple other theories as well. One
Shoot.
being, because I'm pretty sure we're still waiting on the announcement for the Switch 2 or whatever that successor is going to be, right? Because
Hmm.
the Switch has been out since 2017. I
Yes.
mean, this thing is, I mean, it's a very successful console, obviously, but
It's a
it's
senior
getting like
citizen at this point.
whenever I had to get, whenever they were going to release Scarlet and Violet,
Hmm.
I was like, I need to get a new Switch because mine
Yes.
was so old. The heat thing or like the vent was like expanded so much from the battery. So I was like, I need to get a new one for this my Switch to be able to handle Scarlet and Violet. And even with that, sometimes if I played it for too long, it would still crash. So anytime I'm playing Scarlet and Violet and I see that it's lagging, oh, I gotta quickly save the game and exit out and go back in. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
But so
Yeah.
I think part of that might be they don't want to show us anything because it's on the Switch too. and they haven't revealed the Switch 2, so they don't want anybody to know any specs about it, maybe.
That is a very
That's
good
one thing.
guess. That's a very good possibility, actually. Yeah, they're trying to do it side by side with the Switch 2.
Yeah. And also when you go through on the actual trailer itself,
Mm,
like it starts like the first thing you see is confidential. Like they're peeling back stuff. It's like when they were showing you this, it's like they didn't even really want you to know anything.
yeah.
So I wonder if that could be it too. They just don't have as much of the game yet at the time. And another thing, it could also be a reaction, because I feel like as the leaks showed us before, how reactionary they were. I don't know if you saw like the messages that they sent when they were talking about Pokemon Black and White and in reference to the next game's XY.
Okay.
They were like, we need to stop this whole only new Pokemon stuff because people hated that. And they're very reactionary with their Game Freak, it would seem.
Yeah.
And that's why whenever you play XY, there's a bunch of new Pokemon, but also the older Pokemon for you to catch on the routes too.
Yes.
So I think this is a reaction to people saying in Scarlet and Violet how buggy the game was and how people were complaining about how it looked and everything like
Yeah.
that. So they're like, okay, we're going to listen to the fans. We're going to stop this mass repeat, like, keep on spamming these games, making Ilka make that trash BDSP game. And
Yeah.
like, all right, we're going to take our time with this and we're going to polish this and we're not going to let anybody see it until we are ready to go.
I do think there's a lot of merit to that, and I'm glad you brought up the Game Freak being reactionary thing, because that actually feeds into something else that I was thinking about. Is that I remember when this game. I mean, I remember everything that you're talking about, and you're absolutely right. But I also remember um, when the when the ZA announcement went out, I remember the fan
Yep.
base went nuts because the trailer seemed to suggest that the game was going to be confined entirely to the city, to the center city, and obviously they didn't come right out and say that, but the way that the the announcement trailer, the announcement video was done, it took place entirely within yeah, that city that I can't pronounce for some reason.
Yeah, Lumios. Yeah, I know. Even in
Luminos,
the
yeah.
description, it says a new adventure awaits within Lumio City.
Exactly. Yeah, so that all but confirms that. And so a lot of people, myself included, were just kind of like, "Wait a minute, hold on a second. You're telling me that we're going to go from Scarlet and Violet, which despite all of its graphical glitches and bugs, which yes, there were many, and yes, they should have kind of taken their time to slow the machine down and get their shit together before they pushed that out. But you're telling me that we're going from a game like Scarlet and Violet that's a completely open world concept, especially once you get all the powers and abilities for your ride legendary at the end of the game. We're going to go from that to being confined to one city on the map. Now, granted, yes, I think that this is the biggest, I want to say, center city of any Pokemon game ever, probably, in my opinion. It's huge, obviously, but still, it's one city, it's one location. Like that's not, that seems like a massive downgrade. You know what I mean? If that's actually what they're going to do, and
Absolutely.
they're going to take you from having free reign of a completely open world, which is something I think all Pokemon fans, myself included, thought was long overdue in the Pokemon franchise, was to have a game the scope of Scarlet and Violet to be able to do that. And despite the graphical glitches, which were pretty shitty, I will grant you, I'm still happy with the fact that they finally made that leap in a mainline Pokemon game. And yes, I know they had Legends Arceus first, but that had its limitations as well. Um, but I'm glad that they finally made that leap. So to take that away, even if it's just in a spin-off game, I think would probably make a lot of people unhappy, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah, I agree. And because you think about playing X and Y,
mhm.
like Lumio City was great to go around in the taxi and like there was like I remember making like little movies at the movie place and going to the different cafes to get my levels up on some of my
It was
Pokemon.
a cool
But
location, absolutely.
other than it's and lots of cool like places to get stuff. But the fun part was whenever you went outside of that, and Lumios was like a hub of like a bunch of different routes, but then going out to the different routes to get the Pokemon and have your adventure. To me, the adventure, and that's what Pokemon is all supposed to be about. Like, it all originated from one guy in his childhood going out and catching bugs in his backyard.
Yeah.
So the adventure should be going out into nature and
Yes.
exploring there. But to me, I think one way to kind of bridge those ideas is kind of like in Legends Arceus, where your hub was at the town, and you would go to the town, and that would be where your stuff is. But then you would go out and you would branch out from there to go to the open areas.
Yeah.
So to me, if it's the same type of, I mean, it's within the Legend style games, same with Legends Arceus, then playing off of that, we would have a much bigger home base within all of Lumios. But then we could go out to the different parts of Kalos, because especially, like a lot of stuff in Kalos and X and Y, they didn't really it wasn't finished, like I still want to know what's in the freaking power plant and the steam power plant in the desert. Like if
Yeah.
they need to have Volcanion be there, bro. And
Yes.
like give me freaking Hoopa and Diancie and Volcanion again.
Yes.
Okay? And so I feel like with that'd be a huge missed opportunity if it took place within just Lumios, and I don't think that there's any way that that would be. So I think maybe they were trying to throw us off, or maybe you're right. If they plan for this to be within Lumios, then yes, they need to go back to the drawing board and fix that.
Yes, I agree with you completely. And yeah, Kalos is a pretty cool region. I did like Generation 6, X and Y. I thought that it did have its problems, as any generation would, but I did like Generation 6 a lot. And I thought the map was pretty cool. The whole, the map as a whole, it had a lot of interesting locations on it, unique stuff. And yeah, it would definitely be a huge missed opportunity if they were not to explore that in greater detail. Because let's not forget that Generation 6 was still back on the DS, obviously. So there's a lot
Yep.
more limitations on that console than there is to the Switch, and especially if if your prior theory comes to pass and this is actually going to be a Switch 2 game, well, we can only imagine how much better the Switch 2 is than the actual Switch as far as processing and the specs and all that kind of stuff. So it certainly would be, I think, a huge missed opportunity if they were to just confine us to Lumios. But who knows? I mean, I guess stranger things have happened. But yeah, I'm certainly hoping that they don't do that. And if they were planning on doing that and they saw the fan outcry, that they changed course. Because, like you said, especially in recent years, Game Freak, Nintendo, the Pokemon company, they've been very reactionary to the fans, which I think is a good thing. Like, um, I think when if you think back to Sword and Shield, where they gave us that area, they gave us like a limited open
Wild
world.
area.
Yeah, the wild area, which was a limited open world area, and people really liked it, and they were like, "Oh man, I wish they just like did this in a whole game," and then boom, we got Legends Arceus, which was not all the way there, but it was most of the way there, and then boom, we got Scarlet and Violet, which
Yeah,
was
all we needed was to have Wi-Fi battles and put the
yeah.
whole kit and caboodle together.
Yes, but yeah, that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's another thing, which is I think people were very concerned about the possibility of this game not having PvP, because as we both know, being Pokemon YouTubers, or PokeTubers as we don't like to be referred to as, we have, the Wi-Fi battles are
Mhm.
the bread and butter of the content, obviously. So it's like,
Yep.
if this game ends up not having Wi-Fi battles, that's going to suck a lot, because we can only assume that we're going to be pretty far off from the next game after this one comes out, which means that if we want Wi-Fi battles, we're still stuck on Scarlet and Violet, or even before that. But yeah, I'm still, I will say, I'm a little concerned about the possibility of there being Wi-Fi battles on this game. I'm probably, like, at this point, 60-40, thinking that they won't versus they will. I'm giving the 60 to it won't have Wi-Fi battles, and the 40 to it will, purely for the fact that I don't think any of the spin-off games or like side games of Pokemon typically have the Wi-Fi battles. I know Legends Arceus didn't, and this is kind of like, the next step beyond Legends
Yeah.
Arceus.
Assuming that they still have that like strong style versus weak style.
Yeah.
I just don't think that they would include that for Wi-Fi battles. Honestly, that's more of like,
Yeah.
especially considering they had a whole freaking. Do you know how the Arceus worked in Legends Arceus once you got it?
I didn't spend too much time on Arceus to be honest with you. I
Right.
know
Oh,
of
I know, but so
yes.
once you get Arceus, the way it works when it uses Judgment, it just has this like all-in-one plate that it automatically just changes its type to a type that's super effective,
Oh
and
jeez.
it'll always be super effective against whatever Pokemon it is.
Oh my god.
So there's some broken stuff like that.
Well, yeah, that's not very conducive to a PvP at all. Yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
you.
so
I'll be honest with you. The most of the experience I have with Arceus is Legends Arceus is listening to other people talk about it or watching my girlfriend play it because I actually didn't get Legends Arceus. I was still on BDSP, and I know that was something that you had mentioned earlier. But the fact that they released BDSP and Legends Arceus pretty much back to back. I think they did BDSP in November of
no,
21, and then they did Legends
yeah, it
Arceus
was
in
very close.
January of, yep, 22.
Yeah.
Um,
If I can theory brain, maybe a reason why they did that was
yeah.
because they wanted to satisfy the people who wanted Wi-Fi battles like you and me. Like I was doing
Hmm.
Wi-Fi battles on BDSP
Yes.
for too long because I hated that it was so hard to get TMs
Yeah.
and make Pokemon in that game. So I went back to Sword and Shield eventually. But Arceus was fun. It's just fun just to play through. But the thing is, there's no real end game once you're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
But I think this game gives me a little more hope because, like we said, Game Freak is reactionary. They might have heard our cries and our pleas. And also, this is the only thing that we're getting. So maybe they'll put Wi-Fi battles. Now, again, there's still 40%. I agree with you that
Yeah.
there probably won't be, but I think there's a chance.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I do think there is a chance. Like I said, I'm not sure how good of a chance, but I do think there's a chance.
Yeah.
Um, I do think you
Especially because do you remember the glory that was the PSS that originated
yes.
with Pokemon X and Y?
Yes, I do. That was
It's so
awesome.
crazy to me. You could freaking um I don't know if you ever did this, but I did sometimes with just
Yeah.
random people. Like you
Yes.
could straight up talk to them through
Yep.
the DS like it was a phone. And I would
Yes.
be talking to them during the Wi-Fi battles and during trades, like, oh yeah, do you want this shiny? Or I can get that shiny from you. It's like crazy. It
You
was like the Discord before Discord.
you know what's really funny about that is you saying that made me have a flashback essentially because I remember that this one of my very first people that followed me on YouTube that was a guy named Sean. If you ever see him comment on any of my videos, he still does. Was a guy that I met through that mechanic. That's it. And it went in
I
my
know.
very first days of starting up doing Pokemon Wi-Fi battles. I've encountered him and I used that to talk to him actually, and it was very crazy, very strange. But yeah, it was a wild thing, and they haven't done anything like that since then, which is kind of crazy.
I
But
can
yeah,
understand why, because I feel like there might, you think about there might have been some very old people and some very young people. They might have thought, oh, you know what, maybe this is the best idea
yeah,
to group these
there
people together.
the
But
hazards. Yes,
they didn't have to go to the freaking festival plaza and just take it all away. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Because that was a
yeah,
massive time. I had way less Wi-Fi battles in Gen 7 than I did in Gen 6, just because when you had the PSS, I could be breeding Pokemon and I could shout out to people, hey, looking for 6v6 OU Wi-Fi battles. And then I'll be breeding, and then I get a note somebody wants to battle. Hey, I got my team ready to go. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Did you
yes.
ever do things like that?
I actually did. Yes, I
Yeah,
did
man.
use that. I did the same thing, man. Absolutely, and it was
Yeah,
very
that was
convenient.
beautiful, man.
It was very
And then you
convenient.
could save the Wi-Fi battles and go back and watch them. And then
The verses
if I
record.
had a YouTube channel back then, I would have. That's how I would have done post comms.
That's what I did back then. Actually, is if you go
Yeah.
back to not that anybody would want to, because I'll be the first to admit that the quality's not the best. But if you go back to my early stuff, because ORAS was actually the first games that I started up on YouTube. Um, Yeah, that's what I did. Is I just verse. It was so easy to just use the versus recorder, and it was so much easier to like quality control my battles and not feel like, or my my videos for YouTube, and not waste my time on something. Because I don't know if you have this issue. You probably do. If you try to have random Wi-Fi battles, it's on with the random thing, which is all well and good because it does give you an opponent, which is good. But at the same time, then it's like you go to the team preview and it's like you see the Muraidon and you see the Koraidon and you see the Mewtwo and you're like, son of a bitch, and then you have
Yeah,
to
I was struggling
start
with
all
that in
over.
early Sword and Shield. There's a certain point, I think, after the second DLC in Sword and Shield where I joined the Battle Hub Discord, and then all right after that, my battles massively improved in quality because I was facing actual people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
On Discord.
It's hard for me because I like to have a balance. Like I like to get Discord people, but I also like to try to get randos as well. And it is hard to try and get like quality control on randos. So what I'm getting at is I might go through like I might go through like 10 people that I see the team preview and I just quit because it's like all Ubers. And then if I'm lucky enough to not get banned for 30 minutes at that point, then then I might find a good person with a good team. Um, but
I know what you mean. The
yeah,
quality
so it's
control,
rough.
yep.
But yeah, no, it's there's a lot of stuff
All
like
that to
that that was
say
cool.
that the amount of Wi-Fi battles that Gen 6 led to, I feel like this game that's kind of rebooting Gen 6 hopefully would do the same.
Yes, that would be great. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I know obviously Arceus didn't have PvP. Let's Go didn't have
Yep.
PvP, did it? I don't think. Um, so yeah, I
Let's
mean,
Go did
did it?
actually. The
Oh,
only
okay.
problem was it sucked. It
Did
just
it?
you had to do the freaking you had to input instead of numbers, you had to put like Charizard, Pidgey, something. I like you
Oh,
had to
like
match the three
Pokemon
Pokemon.
icons.
It's the same
Oh,
thing.
okay.
And also there was no items. I don't think I'm not even sure there was abilities, honestly. I can't remember. It was very limited Wi-Fi
Oh,
battles.
okay. That
Like
must
I
be
had
why.
like a couple of them.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
that must be
There
why
were
I
they
didn't remember that there were there because they were limited, kind
Yeah,
of like
they
a.
did have some though. Like Pokegame had some, I know, but
Okay.
it was very difficult to kind of make the Pokemon in that game. So
Even more
that's why I
so.
think a lot of people just gen them in
I was
and
gonna
had
say
some
even
battles.
more so than how difficult it was in BDSP to make the game the Pokemon. Right? I
It
know it
was
was.
just annoying because the
Uh,
only way you could do it was you just had to kick it freaking chain the Pokemon over and over and over again.
Dude, I know this is a.
And there wasn't even any EVs.
I know this is a tangent, but I did BDSP Wi-Fi, a decent amount of BDSP Wi-Fi battles, and like it was so hard. Like I was grinding so much to make teams, and I was just like, oh, this just sucks.
Yeah.
Like, but I
I
did it
made a
because
box of mons and I was done.
yeah, like I did it because I really like Gen 4 was one of my favorite generations back in the day. So I was really looking forward to BDSP when it came out, and I will say that I was kind of let down by all only what we got out of it. Um but yeah, I was determined that I was going to have Wi-Fi battles because actually, before I started YouTubing back in Gen 4 in the days of the original Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum was when I actually started to get into competitive Pokemon. And so even though I didn't have Wi-Fi battles, I was still competitive. And I was like, with BDSP, it just felt like I really just want to have competitive Wi-Fi battles on this game. And they didn't make it easy, but it was doable.
Yeah.
So
I mean, same here. 'Cause I wasn't around doing battles, but I didn't join until Gen 6. But I always
yeah.
heard from like Shofu and Pokemon, like, oh man, Gen 4 Wi-Fi battles, those were the days, man. And it's like, well, I want to experience that. So I was trying to experience that through BDSP, and it really let me down.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I think I
I
have a
guess
whole.
it would have been easier if, people give a lot of flack to Joey Fontaine, but this man, every week
Yes.
I was in I think my first ever draft league on YouTube I recorded was the YCL and BDSP.
Yeah.
And this man genned my teams every week and traded me the Mons
Oh
because
wow.
I didn't want to gen.
There
Or
you go.
I think I didn't know how at the time. I didn't know
Yeah.
how to use the Discord bot, so
Or
he helped me with that. So shout outs to him.
and there you go. I was gonna say there's always a Fontaine reference somewhere, but
Yep.
yeah, no, I originally actually it's really funny you should bring that up because I actually had him gen me Pokemon too at one point because like, and
Ah,
it wasn't because I didn't know how to use the Discord bots. It was because I didn't have access to the Discord. Like I was not in any of those Discords and I couldn't figure out how to get in one. So he
Oh,
genned me
yep.
some shit and sent it over, and it was like I would. So if he genned me like a Pokemon that I couldn't get, me because I'm stubborn, I would actually take the genned Pokemon and use it to like breed a legit Pokemon.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's still to this day. That's still the way that I make my teams. To be honest with you, is I gen a Pokemon with perfect stats, and then I use it to breed an actual legit perfect Pokemon. And then just
That's what
use
I was
that.
doing at some point in early on in
Yeah.
Scarlet and Violet when the ability patches were so hard to get. I was just
Ah.
genning Mons with ability patches and then making the abilities and then breeding them.
I still do that. I jet every day that I need something. I'm on whatever, I can't even remember the name of it, but I'm in one of those discords that is with the genning bots, and I'm
Yep.
genning like a dittos with ability patches to trade myself like every day. Because you sell those things, they're
Yeah.
worth like 125,000 Poké dollars, so that's a lot of vitamins you can buy. That
Yeah, it's a good way to grind, yeah.
absolutely. So um, but yeah, I mean, as far as ZA goes, I think there was something else I wanted to say. So there was the Wi-Fi battle thing, and there was the limitations. I guess that's it. The only other thing I wanted to say about it was I know that
We
um,
haven't gotten to the biggest part at the end of the announcement, what
what's that?
ZA would bring as well.
Oh, the return of Mega Evolutions and or new ones.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to touch on. Is there's been a lot of rumors about like new Pokemon and like we could get like what is it like Mega Zygarde or like something like that, which
Yeah.
I could see it happening because it seems like all of these games give us at least a few new Pokemon, right? Because like in Let's Go
Yeah,
they
the
brought in.
Suian forms.
Yep, I was gonna say in Let's Go it was just Meltan, Melmetal, obviously, but then in
Yep.
Legends Arceus, there was about a dozen or so new Pokemon. There were Hisuian forms, like you mentioned. So I would venture to guess that in ZA we're probably going to get some new Pokemon. I could see since it's Gen 6 and Mega Evolution was the gimmick of Gen 6, obviously that there would be some new Mega Evolutions, which is something people have been clamoring for since they took Mega Evolutions out of the game. Was not only for them to bring them back, but
We're
also new
clamoring. They were
ones.
upset in when
Yes.
they weren't. We didn't even get any new ones in Gen 7, and they were upset about that.
Yes.
Like they should have just been thankful that they existed at all.
I was gonna say it was one of those. It was one of those scenarios where it was like Gen 6 Mega Evolutions, everybody loved it, and then Gen 7 hit, and it was like we still got to keep the Megas, but there were no new ones, and people were bitching about it, and all the while in the back, Game Freak's probably just like, if you only knew what was about to happen. And they,
This too. People were complaining that in Gen 7 you couldn't complete the national decks. People were so
yep,
upset about the national. Well, just wait till Gen 8 when you can't even have some of those Pokemon in the game. You should have just been thankful that we had all the Pokemon,
I know, right?
the biggest roster ever in Gen 7.
Yes, I was just gonna say they if us as fans only knew what was on the horizon at that point, um, but yeah, no, I do think that would be cool. I think it's almost a guarantee in my mind that we're gonna get some new Pokemon. We're gonna probably get some new Mega Evolutions too.
I
Um,
think at the very least, it would make sense that whichever starters they pick for Legends Z would get megas.
yeah, I would think so. Which actually, that's a good point. I don't know what they would choose for the starters. That's probably going to be pretty tricky about how they want to play that. Um, so I'll be very interested to
Yeah, I don't
see.
know if they want to pick some like of the most mid starters and then give them megas to try to boost them up.
Well, they almost
Like I
kind of,
mean, think about Samurai.
yeah,
Nobody was using Samurai before, and now Hisuian Samurai. It should be OU if I'm not mistaken. It's
yeah.
such a great mod.
I was just gonna say, yeah, they took some starters. Well, definitely in my mind, definitely with Samurott and Typhlosion, and as opposed to taking them and making Hisuian Samurott and Hisuian Typhlosion. I think Decidueye. I don't know. I always liked Decidueye. Maybe I'm just being biased here, but I didn't think like Decidueye was in desperate need of help as much as the other two. Personally, that's just me.
Yeah.
But yeah, they took
The
some.
tragic thing is that poor Decidueye Hisui is off even worse than its normal counterpart. It's ZU instead of PU, and it's all
Yeah.
because they gave it. It was already Gen 7, the era of super slow Pokemon,
Yep.
made it 10 points slower than the original.
Yes, I was gonna say I remember. I remember that in Gen 7 of like trying to build competitive teams for Wi-Fi battles and just, trying to make them out of like the new Pokemon and just realizing like, wait a minute, everything is really freaking slow in this generation. Like unless you got like Salazzle,
Unless you've got,
it's like
or
that was it.
unless you're using the freaking Ultra Beast, freaking Theramosa,
Oh my
or
God. Yep. Xurkitree.
what's another fast one? Yeah, it's
Xurkitree,
crazy.
the extension
Or
cord.
Pheromone, I think that
Yeah.
Xurkitree is just super strong.
Is it? Oh,
Xurkitree
I
has
always thought it was
170
fast.
something, 173 special attack. I mean, it's 3 speed. It's fast enough for a choice scarf.
There you
You
go.
know,
That's good. That's
I'm trying to
sometimes.
think of the other for
Yeah, I was gonna say
fast one, but I can't remember.
sometimes. Yeah, there's another fast. I know Blacephalon was pretty fast. The stripper pole with the disco ball on top of it. That thing. The
Um,
the clown looking
yeah,
thing.
107.
It's
It's the
decent
main thing
enough.
is 151 special
Yeah.
attack with a 150 base power move.
Yeah.
Trying
No,
to think.
that.
I know that there's the freaking that Lusamine wanted. The freaking
Oh,
Nihilego is
Nihilego.
decently
Yeah.
fast. But I feel like there was one that was even faster, but I can't. I'm not gonna get it.
No, that's okay. Yeah, but no, but yeah. So I do hope I agree with you. I do hope they choose when they do ZA, they choose starters that actually need the upgrade. I feel like they're not gonna do so. I was actually at one point I was trying to figure this out like when they first announced ZA. Um, I was trying to figure out, okay, they're definitely not going to do anything from Gen 1 because, like, they can't. That would just be sacrilegious. And also, they already
Yeah,
all have Mega Evolutions anyway, right? They can't do anything from Gen 9 because that would be too new, I would think. Um, Maybe they could do
yeah,
something from Gen 8, although that would be a little new, but maybe they could do something from Gen 8. Maybe they could do, probably not Cinderace, but maybe they could do Inteleon. Maybe they could do Rillaboom.
yeah. I think Inteleon.
Yeah, probably Inteleon if I had to guess, because that probably needs the most help of the three. They could do. I don't know. They could do a lot of things because we didn't get. But they can't do anything from Gen 6, right? Because it is Gen 6, so they
Did
can't
you
do.
already mention Meganium?
I did not mention Meganium, but that was the other one I was thinking of. Yes, Meganium is in
Yeah.
desperate need of something for it, absolutely. So, they could
Dire
do.
Straits.
Yes, they could do Meganium. And let's see, who do we got for fire? They could do. What needs help? I mean,
Embor.
I was just thinking that, yeah, Embor maybe. What I mean, they can't do Gen 6. They wouldn't do Incineroar. Yeah, so I guess Embor. So there's your three. It's Meganium, Embor, and Inteleon. There you go. There's your Legend
There you
ZA
go.
starters. um, but yeah, I guess I don't really have too much else to say about ZA at this point. I think it's very wait and see at this point, obviously, but I just want something. Like that's kind of the mode that I'm in right now. Is I just want something. Like give me something. Give me an announcement. Give me like some sort of information. Like even if not a trailer, just like something. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think I just remembered. I just was thinking whenever Scarlet and Violet came, because I was used to, you think like XY, Gen 7, Gen 8,
Hmm.
like a month or like a couple of weeks before the games came out, it was like we already had all the stats, we already had everything. We had to
Yes.
wait until like two or a day or two before the games came out to get the stats and get everything. It was like they made
Yes.
this so hard to get, like so hard to leak. They really tapped down on making sure that nobody was going to spring any leaks.
I was just
It
gonna
was like I
say
was having to look at like the Paradox Pokemon stats like right before it came out.
yes, those data miners were working overtime because Game Freak was
Yeah.
not making their job easy. That's for sure. Um, yeah, I guess the last thing I would say about ZA is like, what are we thinking at this point as far as like release date? Because in my mind, I'm thinking like, given the fact that we're now in December of 24, there's no way this game comes out any earlier than summer 25. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe even fall
Really,
25.
I was thinking spring, but I guess you're right. I don't know. I was just
Spring.
thinking, it's just simultaneously worldwide in 2025.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we have any confirmation on when the Switch 2 is coming out?
The big
Switch
rumor for the
2
Switch 2 is that
release
it's going to
date.
be fall of 25 next year is the big rumor. but there
Wow.
is no
Okay.
confirmation on that. So feeding back to your earlier point, I would say that yeah, if they're planning on doing like a simultaneous like ZA with the Switch, then yeah, it could be as late as fall 25 that we get ZA. But
Wow, that would be a very man.
that's a very
Because I
long
don't know,
drought.
because if that's the case, we don't get Gen 10 till 2026.
Yeah, I was just gonna actually, to be honest with you,
Because they
man.
have
Yeah, go ahead.
because like you think about no matter what, no matter what's been happening with Legends Arceus and anything else like always the times for the DLCs and the DLC for Sword and Shield and the Kitakami thing was like in
Yeah.
summer and into summer.
Yep.
But usually it's always fall, like right around Thanksgiving.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like right around like maybe a week ago or so we would have gotten the game already.
Yes, it's always
Um
November. It's always like the
so if they
yeah.
have this thing in the summer,
Hmm.
well, that's too close, to have to the Gen 10. So it would have to push it to 2026,
I was
which would be off if you like every year. So it's been XY 2013, 3 years later, Sun and Moon 2016, 3 years later, 2019, 3 years later, 2022.
yep.
And maybe that's the deal with maybe they're giving themselves more time, to make the
Yep.
games, I guess. Maybe they are listening to people saying that, hey, polish these games and make sure they're done right. And it makes
Yes.
sense. I mean, well, actually, that makes perfect sense. Of that Gen 10 would come out in 2026 because that's the 30-year anniversary.
There you
So you
go.
know what? It makes sense now.
Yeah, I was gonna say I hate to
Now it's clicking.
it's all coming together. Yeah, I mean it sucks to wait that long, but I do agree with you. I think it
But if you're
does.
gonna do it right,
Yes, I agree with you 100%. And I've been saying this ever since. I want to say I feel like the first game that I really noticed it was uh Sun and Moon, because I remember playing Sun and Moon, and I remember how the you remember how the fourth island on Sun and Moon, there was like nothing there. It was like totally blank. It
nothing
was
there.
like, and I was just
I think
like,
literally the trial leader, the art lady,
yeah.
just comes up to you and gives it to you.
Yeah, and
There was nothing associated with it.
exactly, and I was like, "What the fuck?" That was the first time I was like, "What?" I was so annoyed because I was like, "You're billing this as four islands, and the fourth one is like, there's nothing. There's basically nothing here. There's some stuff, but there's basically nothing here." So like, and then in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, they kind of ramped everything up, right? And I was thinking like in my mind when
Ultra Sun and Moon was what Sun and Moon should have been.
yeah, I was just about to say I was when I finished playing Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I was like, basically, this was what Sun and Moon was supposed to be, and because you couldn't wait a year to give me the finished product, I had to pay for two games. Essentially, I had to pay double the price for what I should have had all along. So I can't complain. Like even
Yeah,
though it
I
would,
will say though, playing through Sun and Moon again, because there was a whole thing where Walmart didn't have it the night that I was supposed to get it at
oh no,
midnight, so I had to get a eShop card to get Pokemon Sun, and then I got it the next day, so I never played through this version of Pokemon Sun. But
okay,
I really do like the original version of Lusamine, where she's just like fully evil and an
yep,
awful parent, and she's such a good villain. And then
yes.
they dumbed her down, or they diluted her in Usum, and even more so in the anime.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you there. I didn't watch the anime, but I agree with you about the her character in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon versus the original Sun and Moon. I do like how evil she was in the original Sun and Moon, and then they, like you said, they really watered it down in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Um, but yeah, no, I think that the timetables add up to me to the point of like we're in my mind, like I said, we're probably going to get ZA in summer to fall of 25, and then we probably don't get Gen 10 till fall of 26, more than likely. Which, like I said, don't
Yeah,
get me wrong, it sucks to wait, but if I had to choose, I want it done right. I'll wait for a game that is completed, that is done right, that is polished. I don't want any of the bullshit graphical glitches that we got in Scarlet and Violet or in Sword and Shield. Just I'll wait the time and do it right, which actually
yeah,
feeds me to the next kind of minor point I want to make, which is I feel like given that, like if Game Freak knew that this is what they were going to do, if this was the plan all along, let's give Game Freak the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, this was the plan all along. if that's the case, I think they definitely made a critical tactical error in how they released the DLC for Scarlet and Violet. So we got Scarlet and
Yeah, you
Violet.
think they should have spaced it out more?
Absolutely, 100%. And not only I think should they have spaced it
Yeah,
out more, but they should have made the epilogue like an actually, instead of like a tiny little bit, they should have made that like an actual fully fledged part 3 of the DLC that had like more new Pokemon that came back, and they could have even like split it up a little more evenly. Um, because we got
yeah.
Scarlet and Violet in fall of 22, right?
2022.
Yes, and then
Yep,
we got in what like the end of May, the beginning of June of 23, we got the Pokemon Home update, which allowed us to, have all
yep.
that
That was
interaction with
great.
all so extra Pokemon. And then in September of 22 of 23, um, we got the part 1 of the DLC, and then in December of 23, I think it was, right, we got the part 2 of the DLC, and then of course in January of 24 we got the epilogue. So in my mind,
Yep.
I'm just thinking, okay, if this was the plan, wouldn't it have made so much more sense to say have, okay, you could still stick with like a September release for the first DLC. Maybe for the second one, you push it to like, I mean, you could have done December, I guess, or you could have pushed it to like even January. And then for the part 3 of the DLC, you could have made that like a spring release, like an April, you know what I mean, or something. And you could have made that like an actual full length part 3. It could have even been like a new tiny little area like Kitakami or Blueberry Academy was. There could have been more new Pokemon, or more returning Pokemon rather, I should say, from that were cut out of the game. And that would have spaced it out a little bit more so that as fans we're not feeling like we're in such a content drought.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
So
And I
with
think another thing that they really shot themselves in the foot was I
mhm,
think you think about how going back to their original release schedules, like I'm just looking through here,
yeah,
you had Diamond and Pearl 2006, Platinum 2008. But then you have right after that, Heart Gold Soul Silver, 2009,
yep,
Black and White, 2010. So there was a game every single year. Slight break to Black 2, White 2. But then what do we get? 2012, Black 2, White 2, 2013, XY, 2014, ORAS. And they had to upgrade to the 3DS and upgrade everything. And so that's why I think that XY and ORAS are pretty much like the same baseline stuff, but it's
yep,
just like a new region.
yep,
And then we had another little break. But then we had Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Moon. We had Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Sword and Shield, and it was just back to back to back. And the whole time they're constantly having to update to a new console now they're on the Switch. Now they're having to, because of that, in order to keep up with the schedule that they've set themselves on, they're having to, well, now we can have the now you can't complete the national dex. Oh, now actually there's no more megas and you can't even have all the Pokemon anymore. And it's just
yep,
like they're constantly making the games themselves bigger and better, but they're having to keep up with the time schedule, they're having to compromise in other areas.
and
So
yeah,
I
and
think
cut
now they're
stuff.
learning, okay,
Yep.
let's space it out a little more and let's hope this game it pays off because we still haven't seen this game.
Yes.
So
So
we have to
it
hope
could
that
be
this
all for naught.
extra
Yes,
time they're
that's
having.
the sad thing is that you're right. It could be all for naught at the end of the day because this thing could be a giant piece of crap anyway. But I guess we'll find out. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Is that fast pace, that like rapid fire release schedule is too much, I think. I will say though,
It made the Pokemon fans start to expect it. Like, huh, well, we
yes,
haven't got, where's our new Pokemon game? Now
exactly.
we're clamoring for it.
We've been conditioned. Yes, we've been conditioned to expect it,
Yes.
and now that it's not here, we're going through a little bit of pokey withdrawal right now, I think. So it's like
Yeah.
but no, another thing I do want to mention is I do think that it is actually a good thing, and I know I have said this in the past before, which is actually a 180 from my original opinion, ironically. But I do think that it was a good idea for them when they started on the Switch to start not including like everything in the games. And don't get me wrong, at the time that this happened, I was one of the biggest critics of this. I hated it so much that it was like, what do you mean there's going to be Pokemon that we're not going to have access to in Sword and Shield. Like there are going to be like I can't go out and catch like I don't know a Geodude or whatever. Like it's just not in the game, you know? Like that was like blew my mind and I hated it so much. And now that all these years have passed, I'm just like, you know what? I get it. I understand why they did it. It's like the Pokemon franchise has evolved to the point that there's just so many freaking Pokemon now. It's like unmanageable almost, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't blame them for cutting. Like the only thing I would hope for and ask for is that they do a good job of crafting the decks. And so I think all in all they've done a pretty okay job of crafting the decks. I think if I think back to the Sword and Shield Pokedex after the two DLCs and everything it's in its entirety that we got versus the Scarlet and Violet Pokedex and everything we got in its entirety, I feel like the Sword and Shield Dex is still a little bit like more well cherry picked in my opinion than the Scarlet and Violet decks because there's a decent amount of crap in the yeah, in both of them, but in the Scarlet and Violet decks I feel like there's maybe a little bit more crap and there's a few more of my like old favorites that I'm missing in Scarlet and Violet, like the fact we don't have
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that we're missing that they had in that one was they had all of the Ultra Beasts, which definitely
yeah
makes a big difference.
yeah I
Like I
do
like there's all the
yep
my beautiful Kartana and the
that's
one that I was forgetting before, the freaking Naganadel. Of course, that thing's banned, but you know,
of course yeah no
I
I
think several mythicals are absent from Scarlet and Violet.
That's another problem, yeah. And actually, to your point, I was going to say the Pokemon that I miss, one of the Pokemon I really miss from Scarlet and Violet or not being in Scarlet and Violet is actually Melmetal because Melmetal has never
Mm,
really
yes.
got like a proper mainline game release. And I was really hoping that we would get like an event for it in Scarlet and Violet, that it would be like actually there and we could use it. But no, it never happened. But aside from that, Alakazam, I really miss my Alakazam.
Oh,
Um,
oh man, that's you just reminded me. I used to love setting up Nasty Plot Alakazam with Expanding
yes,
Force in the freaking
psychic terrain, right?
Psychic Terrain. Yeah, those are good times.
Yes, that was
Lots of good Wi-Fi battles with that.
yes indeed. So, um,
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, back in the day when I was in college and I was still actually playing Pokemon Go,
yeah,
there was a point where, I was helping people out because I was one of the few people that, you know, was a shill and got Pokemon Legend or Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, even with the Pokeball to get Mew.
that's funny.
And I was helping people out to get because the only way that you could get the freaking Melmetal
Yep,
was to use Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and connect it with Pokemon Go.
yep.
And so I was carrying my Switch around school, and I would somebody would message me on Discord like, "Hey, can I get the Melmetal?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's meet up," and I would do the thing to give it to him.
Nice.
So the fact that they had to force you to buy a whole separate game to
Just for
play it
that,
on your smartphone to then
just
get it on there
yep,
just to be able to finally transfer it.
just for a Melmet for one Pokemon, for one Pokemon. Yeah,
And
no,
not only that, you had to do it you usually had to do it multiple times in
yeah.
order to get enough Meltans to evolve it into a Melmetal.
Yeah, dude. I agree with you. I'm glad to hear you were the upstanding citizen that you were helping people out with
Yeah,
that.
I was trying to help people out.
But yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. That's crazy lengths to go to get that thing. So I was really hoping that in Scarlet and Violet we were to get that, but unfortunately we didn't. Obviously Alakazam's an old favorite. Aggron's a big old favorite of mine as well that I'm
Yeah,
sad we don't have. But yeah, all in all, like I guess my overall point is I can't complain too much. The bottom line for me is I value quality over quantity. So as long as you're taking your time and I'm getting most of what I want and you know everything kind of flows and nothing's over centralizing, it all makes sense. And they take their time and produce a quality product, and I can't complain. But what I can complain about, like I said, is the timing of everything. Definitely feels like they could have done that a little better, which
yeah,
kind of feeds me into the last point, which we already kind of talked about. But one of the last points I wanted to mention was the feeling of stagnation that we have in Pokemon right now. Because I think a lot of people, a lot of Pokemon fans at this point, myself included, have like a little bit of a feeling of stagnation with it because it's like we had said a couple of times already, we're in this content drought, right? Like it's been since January, which is 10 months ago, almost 11 months ago at this point, at that we've had the epilogue release, which was the actual last bit of new content aside from like new raids for stuff. Um, and then since it's been 9 months, the end of February, since we've even had any information about Legends ZA, which is going to be the next installment, next game.
Yeah.
So yeah, with all this time having passed, like it does feel like things are kind of stagnant at this point with Pokemon. I mean, we try to make new teams and new Wi-Fi battles and draft leagues and all that stuff to keep
Biggest thing that
ourselves.
keeps it going is the draft leagues, honestly. Of
Yeah,
course, I
that
mean, if I had to,
does help.
I had twice as many Wi-Fi battles in Sword and Shield as I did this time around.
Did you?
I think that's mainly because of all the draft battles I've been doing. So I guess if you count all the draft battles, I probably exceeded that at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the fact that you go on Discord to get Wi-Fi battles, and there's not as many people as there was at the start, I don't think.
No, I agree with you. I think people have been dropping off, and I've felt a little bit of fatigue. Like I still enjoy making new teams, but like I have this thing where I try to make a new competitive 6v6 teams, right? And it's like I my goal is to not use any Pokemon that I've already used on Scarlet and Violet, or whatever the game is that I'm playing. So by
Right.
the time I get all the way up there, it's like I'm starting to run out of options. Like yeah,
Oh yeah.
I've used
Well,
just
that's why what I usually do when I would build teams is I get like two or like maybe one or two ZU or NU like fun Pokemon, and then
yeah,
put them with some like that's why I did in Sword and Shield. That's why I had a bunch of them. Is I would get standard mons and mix them in there to make it a
make
good
it.
team and usable in OU.
Yes, I actually did that a lot more in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon myself. I remember doing
Oh,
that
yep.
a lot. Yeah, I would have, especially toward the end, because I had a lot of Wi-Fi battles on Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, even more so than I did on Sword and Shield. And because I had to get used to the whole like live narration thing without the verses recorder, which
Right.
now I'm pretty used to the live narration thing. I do like it now because you get more of like a raw reaction, that kind of thing. But it was definitely a learning curve to get used to that. But yeah, I did that a lot on Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I had so many Wi-Fi battles, and I mixed. I remember using like fucking like the like OU broken shit, and then like Z Lovely Kiss Jinx too in there, which was a hell of a strategy. So,
Yeah.
um, but
I'll
yeah,
tell you what, though, I think one thing that they can do to at least mitigate some of this, and they did this
what's that?
before in 2016,
Yeah.
which was they gave us the red, blue, yellow virtual console on
Yes.
the DS.
Yes, they
And
did do that.
I waited around until like the last minute but I got all of them. Like,
Nice.
I think I had, like, one of each version at one point, like, when they first
Okay.
came out, but then once it was getting towards the end of the eShop era, I was like, "Okay, I need to buy all of these, that way I can complete the decks." And so for a minute there, I think before Scarlet and Violet, I was going back and playing those games and literally completing the decks
Nice.
in Gen 1. And because I had, like, 2 DSs so I could trade back and forth,
Nice.
and get all the Mons.
There you go.
And, so I feel like, if they could give us that, I mean, that's pretty easy to I mean, heck, I'll pay $10 for them if they give me the Gen 3.
Yeah.
And as long as that way they can make it connect to Pokemon Home, just like the virtual console connected to Pokemon Bank, and people can have fun, in the classic Gen 3
Yeah.
and shiny hunt there, and maybe they gave us the freaking Celebi that you could shiny hunt Celebi,
Nice. Yeah.
in Gen 2 Virtual Console. Give me a freaking Deoxys event or something or like that, where I can shiny hunt that or something like that.
Yeah, so
Just
it's
something.
yeah, so that actually feeds me to one other thing I was gonna say, which is that I think something that's a little bit of a missed opportunity for them right now, as far as trying to keep people's interest in the game. I think they would be well served to have events with previously unreleased Pokemon in Generation 9 and Scarlet and Violet, the same way that they were doing. Like, you remember that period of time in between when the main Scarlet and Violet game came out in November of 22 and when the Pokemon
Yep.
Home update dropped in like May or June of 23. They were doing events for
Yes.
like Charizard, Greninja, like Pokemon that were not in the game, and then through that event now you have access to that Pokemon in the game. I feel like they should be still doing that with Pokemon we don't have access. Like, do like this is the best one, or the number one in my mind would be like a Melmetal event, right? Like, do a Melmetal event,
Right.
and get Melmetal
I
in.
was thinking that same thing too. I was
Yes.
like, do some Ultra Beast events, man.
Yes, although I think we all know how broken the Ultra Beasts would be with Terra, which is probably one of the reasons they're not in the
Hey,
game.
I don't
But
care. I have them. I like broken stuff.
well, that's true too. But yeah,
If they're
they
too strong, bitch, ban them. But
it's
let me use freaking stack attack, max attack, a stack attack.
yes. I was gonna say yeah, I would like to have Cartana back myself as well, but yeah, no, absolutely. I think that would be something they could do. They could do that for some of those. They could do that for They could do that for literally any Pokemon that they wanted to bring back into the game. They
Yeah.
could. I mean, they could have an Alakazam event for God's sakes, and they could bring it back into the game that way.
Yep.
Keep people engaged, keep them interested, keep them wanting to keep doing the raids. Like, so yeah. But I
I
think
mean, yeah, that was the only reason that I was doing the raids at the start was
it,
because that was the only way, and it was a cool thing because it was like the whole community, like the day it dropped was like, oh, what's the best strat to do this to do this raid,
mhm,
and oh, this strat's better than this strat, and we were all coming together and we are all doing the raids together. Such a sense of community
yes,
and being able to like when they did the Greninja and the Cinderace one, I was immediately going to breed them and making more so that way other people could have them if they wanted to, catch it in a
yep,
cool Pokeball that you couldn't previously have gotten a starter in.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so yeah,
So
that was good.
yeah, that was really cool. And yeah, if they were smart and they wanted to keep the engagement up, I think they should have done that, and they could be doing that right now, obviously, but they're
Yeah.
not. Because
Yeah, I
realistically,
thought that they were going to do that, but it became apparent to me when they just kept on doing starters, even after the starters
yeah,
although
we're
I
in the
guess they
game.
wanted to let them get the mightiest mark for all the starters, which fine.
Yeah,
I guess the only consolation is at least they're doing this shiny Rayquaza.
yeah,
So at
that's
least that's something. I've never had a shiny Rayquaza before,
there
so
you
I'll
go.
definitely be doing that.
I was just gonna say there you go
But
for
you could give us some unreleased Pokemon.
yeah, that would be
It
the
did, I will say,
yeah,
when they dropped the Meloetta, I was immediately it took me hours to catch all those Pokemon and transfer them into home. It was
yeah,
very satisfying once I finally did it though. So that was worth it
nice,
to where, I was having fun like in the old days whenever I was trying to complete the decks in Oras and Sun and Moon.
yeah.
Actually gave me a reason to go through and fully complete the decks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like that's I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've ever completed the decks in any Pokemon game I've ever owned just because like
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
the incentive wasn't there for me. But yeah, no, that's a big incentive,
Well, the shiny
absolutely.
charm.
Oh, yeah, that's true too.
I guess
I do okay without
that's
it though, I
fair.
will say. I do like with the
Yeah, I will say
sandwiches.
I think it was hard to do in ORAS because I think I was at 721 or something like that, and I can't. No, I think 721 was the max. Maybe it was a
Yeah.
718. I was missing like a couple mythicals.
Yeah,
And
that
I
you
was like,
just
man, I need to get these freaking mythicals, and I guess I never did.
yeah,
So,
so it's
well, I
hard.
completed it in Pokemon Home,
Did you
so
That's the big one.
that's all guarantees that I have all the Pokemon, including all the mythicals. So I'm set there.
There you go, absolutely. So but yeah, no, I do think there's definitely some things they could have done differently that would have avoided this this state that we're in right now with the game with the franchise. But yeah, not that there's not anything, not that there's not things to look forward to, because obviously we have things to look forward to in the future. It's just like it feels like the future is so far away at this point, you know.
Right,
So
I know. Well, and I can see it in like you look at some of the competitive PokeTubers like PokeAim and Blunder in them.
yeah,
Like I saw they did a really cool stream where they had like a Pokemon escape room.
okay,
Been doing a lot of different like OMs of the month on Showdown. So they're
interesting.
branching out because at this point they too must have probably used all the Pokemon that they could.
Yep.
So now they're trying to branch out and do other stuff during this time, and they're gonna have to keep doing that because they're
Yeah.
probably gonna have a little bit more of a waiting period. Can you imagine, especially if there's no PvP?
Oh
Well,
dear God.
Showdown's not gonna have a
Yeah.
new meta. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess in theory they could make their own meta up with the Pokemon on Showdown.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did that for Arceus or not,
I don't know.
but they're gonna be stuck without one. And so
Yeah,
they're
I
gonna have
tell
to
you
keep
what.
on with something else to play.
I'll be completely honest with you. So, recently, in the last couple of months, I want to say, I actually re-downloaded Pokemon Go myself because I have not played.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't played
Wow.
Pokemon Go since like January of 2018. 2018, I want to say, or 20 no 2017. Like the so yeah, Go
Yep.
came out in 2016, I want to say, and I had not
Yeah,
played.
it did.
Yes, I had not played Pokemon Go since January of 2017, and like a couple of months, a month or two ago, I actually downloaded it again because I was like, well, my girlfriend was bugging me to play it with her because she plays it a lot, but also
Right.
I was like, I'm starting to burn a little bit here on Scarlet and Violet, and like, there's no new content. There hasn't been any new content in a while. There's no new content on the horizon. And so like I'm running out of like new teams to make on Scarlet and Violet. So I don't know. It's that I've
And
done
that's
that.
what I did during Ultra Sun and Moon, man, at a
Yeah,
certain point, because I just wasn't having as many Wi-Fi battles in college. I was breeding some shinies, and that was about it.
yeah,
So I just started playing Pokemon Go. And in my head, I was like, well, this is all going to be worth it whenever the Pokemon comes onto the Switch and they give us something to transfer these Pokemon into, which
right.
eventually they did with Pokemon Home.
Yeah,
So that's why I was doing a bunch of the community days and getting the shinies, and I transferred a lot of those over. Like I
nice.
got a shiny Latios one time from a raid, and I've used that in some of my Wi-Fi battles.
Oh, nice.
But there was a certain point where I was just getting so busy with school and work,
Yeah,
and it gets to a certain point where I'm missing all these community days, and there's so much FOMO that
yeah,
it's like, all right, I'm just gonna stop cold turkey because I feel like I'm missing all this stuff on Pokemon Go, and if you aren't able to keep up with it as much, then
yes.
you just feel like, well, I'm missing all this
It
stuff. I
kind of
may as well just
sucks.
not even listen to it, just not even look at it.
I
I'm
don't
not gonna
care.
see,
Yeah.
oh, I missed the chance to get a shiny Genesect. I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay.
Yeah,
I will
I've
say though, I think I did go back on real quick just to get like oh, that's right. I wanted another Hoopa because the
the
Hoopa that I had in Scarlet and Violet was unbound, and I wanted to have a different set for the
confined
regular
form.
one, like a
Yeah,
special set.
right. I
Yep.
gotcha.
So I did that. Just I went on Pokemon Go for a little bit just to get that.
Yes, I understand, and I think I do know people like that where they're like, if they miss a community day, they're like, "Oh, fuck this, I hate everything," or like I have people that if they play the community day and they don't get like a perfect or they don't get a shiny, they're so mad and they're just like, oh, "I hate this the game so
Oh,
much." And
I'm
I'm
not
just
that.
like,
I was never
"Oh
that.
no, I'm not
I
like
just
that
wanted a
either." Don't
shiny
get me
because
wrong.
I always knew
Yeah.
that the IVs did not matter. All I
Yes.
needed was the shiny because then auto caps, baby. That's all
Yes,
I needed.
exactly. And actually, it's funny because the day I came back, if I'm not mistaken, was a Sawaddle Community Day. I think it was like right in the beginning of October, I want to say, um, and it was a Sawaddle Community Day, and I came back, and within like 20 minutes of picking the game back up, I think I had a perfect and a shiny Swaddle. It's just like, I don't
Wow,
even like
very
this
nice.
thing. I don't even like this thing, but whatever. I have it now.
No,
Okay.
no, listen, listen. The only I think out of all my years playing Pokemon Go, the only perfect Pokemon I ever got was the perfect Aerodactyl, and I was like, great, I'm
Nice.
gonna transfer this over to Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and I'm gonna have a perfect Pokemon to use in my Wi-Fi battles. I transfer it over. It did those perfect IVs
Yeah.
didn't include the speed stat. So when I transfer over, it's got
Uh,
five IVs and an imperfect speed stat and a trash nature. I'm like, "Ah, this is so annoying. I'm gonna transfer it out of this game and into freaking
yeah.
Sword and Shield so I can actually make it a perfect Pokemon."
Yes. That's terrible. That's funny. And then I was gonna
But I
say,
think that I think maybe that's you know what that's why they gave us freaking Pokemon Pocket too, because I think a lot of people, including myself, are on the side or are playing a little Pokemon Pocket and getting the Mons
yeah.
and like doing a little bit of the PvP on there. It's not
Right.
much. I just play it like maybe 20 minutes a day just to get my packs and have a little
Gotcha.
PvP. But it's something.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um. But yeah, that. I don't know. I guess I think that probably touches on everything that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if you have anything else you want to throw out there, but yeah, I think we
I was
pretty much
just
covered the
thinking about
bases.
like the future of Pokemon.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember right before Gen 7 was gonna come out. You ever watched that YouTube channel called it's like Loggin with Noggin or like Logston or something like that? He had all these theories
I don't
about
think
Gen
I've seen
7,
that. I don't
how
think
it
I've
was
seen
gonna
that.
be he had this big Pokemon theory with a bunch of different videos on this theory about how Gen 7 was like like seven in like numerology is like a perfect number that
Yeah.
symbolizes completeness and perfection. That was going to be the reset. They were going to completely restart the franchise with all new Pokemon and
Yeah.
everything. But it got me thinking. Even though a lot of people said that he was wrong and all this, I think he was actually right. Because you
Yeah.
think about how in Sword and Shield we had the Great Reset where we couldn't have all the Pokemon anymore because Gen
Yeah.
7 was the last time where we had all the Mons. And
Yes.
you just think about how from there on we've got less and less that we don't have any more megas. We don't have all the Pokemon. And
Yep.
now we're having there no more, thank goodness there's no more Dynamax. Of course we got Terra. But
Yeah, exactly.
even with that though, you look at the hit like what happened after we got bottle caps in Gen 7, although it was very hard to get, and we
Yes.
still couldn't change the natures.
Yes.
But then Gen 8, the bottle caps got easier to get. We got nature mints.
Yes.
Gen 9, the bottle caps are even easier to get. And we
Yes.
got nature mints that are super easy to get too.
Yep.
So this over time having the barrier to entry just continue to get lower and lower. And you look at how many more people are playing Pokemon VGC, including myself,
Mhm.
like because it was before it was so hard to breed the Mons just for one tournament. Now it's super easy, so it's no problem.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Gen 10 is when we finally get the only logical step beyond having $25,000 a piece bottle caps and nature mints is just let me freaking make the Pokemon IVs and EVs and everything in game myself, like a Pokemon Showdown,
Oh man,
like in game simulator or something like that.
that was, I don't know, that
So
might be
I'm
a bridge
thinking
too
that
far.
that might be the next step.
It might, you know what?
You think so?
There's a possibility. I do agree with you. There is a possibility, but I also feel like that might be a bridge too far. Like you would, there would have to be some massive cost associated with letting you do that. I would think. Like the game would have to.
I'm sure there would be some. I mean, yeah, some type of grind to be able to get that.
Yeah,
Not
but
only that, do you remember like it was so difficult sometimes to breed egg moves back in the day in
yes,
Gen 6. Like
yes.
I was trying to put Aura Sphere, Dragon Pulse, and Water Spout on my Blastoise,
Oh,
and
that
I would
was
have to keep
so
on swapping
painful.
out the Squirtle because
Yeah.
otherwise it would learn other moves, and then
Yes.
by the time went too far, the egg wouldn't have all the moves,
Yep,
so I'd
I
keep
do
swapping out.
remember that.
Now we just mirror herb, baby. We just even if who cares that it didn't? Who cares if I bred this Pokemon and it didn't know the move? I'm gonna mirror herb it on there, and
Yes,
I don't
exactly.
even need it to be in the same egg group. It just has to know the move.
The quality of life upgrades have been
Yes,
something to
that's what I'm getting
behold.
at, though. You can see
Yeah.
this clear progression in the
Yes.
quality of life, and it just makes me wonder. Well,
What's
I wonder how
next?
much easier it's going to be in Gen 10.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. I think they probably are gonna. I mean, I think they probably are gonna make it even easier in Gen 10 to make legitimate competitive Pokemon. Now, I do think that letting you just type everything in like Showdown does is probably a bridge too far. But I do
It
think that
might be a bridge too far, but something
yes.
similar to that
Yeah,
would be
but I
cool.
do think that they are going to continue to make it easier. Like maybe the mints and the bottle caps and everything will cost even less. And maybe there will be like how with hyper training, it's like that to use the bottle caps. You had to be level
Level
100 in
50.
Sword and Shield, and then
Oh
in
yeah,
Scarlet and Violet, you had to be level 50. Maybe there will just be no restriction whatsoever on it in Gen 10, and you can just do it to any Pokemon. So I do think stuff like that will continue to happen to improve the quality of life and the ease
I
of
think
making
the
that.
only other thing that would make it easier for sure
Mhm.
is the return of infinite TMs. That
Oh
was the
yeah.
biggest thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes even now, I'm having to go around the Paldean map and look for, oh, I need to find a Ralts and a Hatina and a Rockruff to get
I do
the
that too.
moves for
I
this
do
TM.
that too. Yeah, it's like I gotta kill a few Rockruffs so I can make me another Stealth Rock TM or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So yeah, I go through the same
yeah,
thing, man. Trust me. So yeah, I mean it's who knows like with that's another little thing with the crafting like. That's kind of a double-edged sword because like yeah it does make it easier in one way but then in another way it's like when you run out like you said then you have
yeah,
to go like find that Pokemon on the map and knock a bunch of them out to get the materials
yeah.
but yeah I do think it's the
I will
game.
say at least playing through BDSP and having to make TMs in that game,
Yeah.
it at least makes me appreciate that it is easier in this game.
Oh my god, yeah,
It's at
absolutely.
least possible to get the freaking TMs.
It's having to buy the freaking TMs in BDSP with the points from the battle frontier or whatever is just that was a grind and a half.
Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah, but no, I do agree. I think everything is going to continue to get easier to make it, which is a good thing. I think it's to quality of life improvements to make the competitive Pokemon is always a good thing. But
I will say though, you just reminded me of that. One of my favorite parts of and they've gotten rid of this in the latest in Scarlet and Violet, but
yeah,
the going back to the Battle Mason in XY and Oras and even the Battle Tree, like that was a lot of fun to do just to like
yeah,
get uh get
punching
a
bags.
streak going and
Are you talking?
grind up all that BP. That was a fun
Oh,
post game
that
thing
yeah,
to do. Like if I was on long car rides and I couldn't Wi-Fi battle anyone, I'd use the Pokemon that I bred and like see how far I could go with
yep,
it.
just
I hope that
grind.
they could bring that back.
Yeah, that
Yep.
was. I actually didn't mind the punching bag thing too because they had that on
Oh, yep. Super training.
yeah, the super training. Like I thought that was a good way to get EVs pretty quickly. So, um, but yeah, obviously, the being able to vitamin the crap out of your Pokemon with your cash is good too. Yeah, so yeah, I do think it's just going to keep getting easier, and yeah, we don't know. Who knows exactly what it'll look like, but I'm interested to see it. I just, we have to just get there at this point. I think is the goal, is the moral of the story. At the end of the day, it's a waiting game to see how long they are going to make us wait for more content. But as long as they do it right, I think it will be worth the wait. So.
Yeah, no more glitches, no more crashing mid-game if I'm on it too long, but we'll
Yes,
see.
we will see. So, um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me. Do you have anything else you want to add, Emerald, or
Yeah.
you think we pretty
I
much
think
covered the
that was
bases?
everything.
Perfect. All right, so
Yep.
yeah, that'll do it for this one. So thanks for watching again, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed. Please hit that like button, leave a comment, and/or subscribe if you did enjoy, and stay tuned for more new videos in the future. Of course, I want to thank my guest Emeraldminer for joining me today to talk about Legends ZA, the current state of the Pokemon franchise, the future, all things Pokemon. So thank you for that.
Of course. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem, man. So yeah, that's it, and we'll see you next time.